Hello, all of you. How are you doing this Juneteenth weekend? I hope you are doing well out there. It's good to be back again. I'm Lee Meadows here on Facebook Live and Let's Talk Business. Man, it has been a very exciting week so far. I mean, we've seen a number of states have really kind of opened their guidelines now, and businesses are starting to flourish again, which is real nice. It's nice to see that the people are actively involved in getting back to work. Some organizations have still made some very interesting choices about, to return to work or not to return to work. But all in all, you take that and combine with the fact that we're having great weather here in Michigan, and it makes for a wonderful beginning, middle, and end of the week. So we hope that the week it has gone well for you, and that you're ready to relax and kind of enjoy the weekend and celebrate the Juneteenth weekend with the rest of us as well. We look forward to sharing some time with you. So as always, we'd like to take a few minutes to acknowledge who our sponsors are, the people who continue to support our efforts here, and we'd like to make mention of the fact that Sigrid Solutions and Spectrum Health, Priority Health, and Bridgewater Interiors, my employer Walsh College, my friends over at the Great Lakes Benefits Group, Paylocity Heritage, Mellor Marketing, and of course joining us for a second week in a row is our good friend Cassandra Harvey at Exodus Consulting. And I tell you, it's just so nice to have that kind of support going into any of the things that we do, and it's always nice to know that people are being supportive and providing us with an opportunity to share this kind of information and these times with you as well. So let's start talking about some of the things that have come up, either been sent to me on email or things that I've been picking up on Facebook, and questions that people have been asking about the different skill areas and things they should be thinking about in terms of their career. And one of the interesting ones that has emerged over the last few years, and we've gotten some comments on, is the notion of influence. How do you become an influential leader in the workplace? What's the role of influence? What are some of the things that we need to think about relative to that? And it has its bearing. It has its way of kind of working on. The ability to use influence becomes critical in that particular process, and that even more so, we begin to recognize that the entire skill base, from communication to motivation to the use of conflict and anything like that, that some of the things that becomes important for us to know how to do is how to be able to use influence. How to be able to say to individuals that while I don't have a position of authority, while I don't have the rank or something like that, I can still influence change in the process. And that's what we're going to spend some time talking about for this particular segment of Let's Talk Business. We're going to spend some time talking about the use of influence. So let's talk about what that looks like. The notion of using influential leadership to achieve outcomes. Well, how do we define that? Influential leadership is defined as using influence to create followers who want to follow, as opposed to followers who believe they have to follow. As opposed to followers who have to follow. People follow you because they want to. And while you may not occupy a formal position in an organization, while you may not occupy a formal role in, say, the greater society or something like that, it doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to be influential. And influence is really about just knowing how to use what we call your professional position, which allows you directives and authority. In other words, your influence comes at you because of the position that you occupy. But one of the most interesting things that's kind of emerged around this notion of influence is the fact that people rely on their personal credibility, which is an informal way of distributing communication. And I see that one heart sign out there. Thank you in the comment section. Thank you for that. But a number of you occupy a professional position in an organization, so that position allows you to use influence of the position. But some of the biggest things that we've seen by way of social media and research and all that is where does personal credibility fit into this whole influence process? What is your level of personal credibility when it comes to trying to influence the behavior of other people? Sometimes we have to listen to someone because they do have a position of authority, so it's like, do as I say because the position demands and dictates that you do so. And then there's this whole notion of, well, I don't have the position of power to do something, so what else do I have to rely on? I have to rely on my own personal credibility. And that's an interesting balancing act between those two. And of late, what we've really begun to notice is the role of personal credibility in this process. Now, for those of you who want to kind of think through this to figure out, what are some of the things we need to start thinking about, well, let's talk about these 5 elements of influence. Because one of the things with influence is that one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to establish credibility. Well, how do you establish credibility? Well, there has to be a consistency of predictability around the things you say and the things that you do to start building that credibility. Credibility comes with content, experience, and insight born out of those experiences. So you start to think about, well, how do I begin to establish credibility? Well, one way is to start to engage with others and build your connections beyond just your normal circle of influence. There are so many other ways in which you can engage with others, and social media has demonstrated this in so many ways that it's just hard to negate just how important how important this whole thing has been. One of the other things you want to do, of course, is you're trying to clarify expectations. When you're working with individuals, when you're trying to engage around particular topics and that, one of the things you want to be sure of is that people know and understand your expectations, whether that's in a personal relationship, whether that's in a professional relationship. What is it that you hope to get out of this relationship? And again, if I don't have the positional authority in which to state those expectations, I can start to build the credibility that comes with that. The other thing you want to do, of course, is to practice accountability. And we hear that coming up in organizations all the time. Well, what's the level of accountability around these kinds of things? What is it that people should be thinking about as they begin to move something like this forward? Well, if you're the kind of person that people know they can rely on consistently, that whatever you say you're going to do, you do. Whatever you say you're going to deliver, you deliver. You deliver it with a consistency and a quality where folks don't have to spend time following up on things that you do. Well, that's practicing good accountability. And then the other thing, of course, what's your passion? People engage around influence by sharing the passion that drives them. Reflect on what is that passion that drives you. From where I sit, my passion for years has always been the notion of helping people to develop their leadership skills so that they can advance their careers in ways that they didn't think were possible. And so anything related to that, I'm always about how do I help develop others and build my credibility so that when I'm sharing an opinion or giving some insight or sharing my expertise, or individuals who seek me out for information, they need to know and understand that I'm passionate about their development, but I'm also coming with a great degree of credibility around leadership development. And that's the thing that starts to really build for those of you who are looking to establish your credibility and use your influence in ways that you hadn't imagined were possible as well. So the thing about influencing it is that it's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. It's an investment that we make throughout our career, and we keep striving to do that. So as you start to think about your own level of influence within your organization or outside of your organization, start to ask yourself, how have I gone about building and establishing my credibility as someone who is a content expert, who has some unique insights, some expertise that I'm willing to share with folks who are interested in moving their careers along. And of course, you don't have to. The thing about credibility is that you don't have to be an expert in everything. You have to figure out what's that one thing that, if someone called me on the spur of the moment, let's say here in Michigan, here in the Michigan southeast part of Detroit, some of our favorite local stations are channel 2, 4, and 2, 4, and 7. But if somebody called you from channel 7 or channel 4, or whatever your local station, and wanted to do an on-the-spot interview with you about something that you're good at, what would that expertise be? What is something that you know that if put to the test, if the pressure was on, you could do 5, 10, 15 minutes just off the top of your head, because your expertise and your experience and your insights have, for the most part, allowed you to go down this particular path. So start to give that some thought. You want to have influence inside of an organization, then start looking for ways to build your credibility. One of my particular passions, besides leadership, one of my passions is I like to write. Sometimes I find that for me, the written word conveys more meaning and more clear messages than I might do with verbalizing something. So I spend time. I write articles for LinkedIn. I write articles for the Advisory Council. I also do that for the Forbes Coaches Council and for the Training Industry magazine. Or from time to time, I'll just write a column because I just have some thoughts and some ideas about things that I want people to know about. Now, you need to know sometimes they aren't the most well-read articles, but they are articles that I have a passion about. And so I want to share that passion with individuals and hope that it helps to change or alter the trajectory of their lives in ways that makes them a lot better. And again, that's just my passion. I find that I like to write. I like to post articles on LinkedIn. I like to contemplate when I got things rolling around in my head about different things that are going on in life. I like to write them down and put them out there and let people react to them and decide if they like where I'm coming from, if they've got some issues with where I'm coming from. But feel free to kind of, in the spirit of the debate, to kind of check it out. And again, that's one way of building credibility. Now, I know there's a whole population of folks out there who are absolutely good with social media as a way of building their credibility. People who have thousands of followers on Twitter, or hundreds of followers on Facebook, or whichever social media they happen to be using. But they've spent the time to build their influence because they've used that media platform to share ideas, to put things out there, to let people know what they are thinking and how that thinking can be helpful to them, which is one way of garnering their influence, and then being able to use it as a direction for others to follow. So influence is a big part of what happens inside of organizations, and it's a critical part to really developing your career and keeping your career going forward. So that even if you don't have a formal position in the organization, it doesn't mean you can't be influential by way of your own credibility. So start to think about influence. Start to look at some of that. Look at some of the ways people use social media to build their influence. But also think about how you go about maintaining your own connections inside of your organization as a way to start building your influence. All right, it's a wonderful topic, and I hope that you spend a little more time thinking about it and rolling with it as well. So, again, it's been a delight to be with you, as it is every week. I appreciate the comments that have been coming in. Thanks for the 3 thumbs up and thanks for the 1 heart. I do appreciate receiving that. That helps me to kind of keep things going. But also, again, feel free to contact me about topics or things that you think that we need to talk about here on Let's Talk Business, and let's spend some time talking about them. All right. So, as always, you know me. You've been with me long enough to know that what becomes important for me is that you understand that the best way to make a difference is to be the difference. So, having said all that, thank you for your support. I do appreciate that. Be safe out there. Happy Juneteenth, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.